All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to No Final Bell. Might be a little bit of a shorter episode today because we have no NWA. We just had Impact from Emergence from this past Friday. And of course, AEW Dynamite and Rampage. So, to start off, as always, we are going to go right to the man to my right.
Yeah. So, first we have the countdown, which actually had two matches instead of one. Usually on the countdown to usually on like a pre-show or a countdown for Impact, they usually only have like one match, but this time it was two. And the the one match I look at is like, why did they put it on the countdown? But regardless, there's not much to say about this match. I'm sorry, but the digital media title was on the line. Um, Bhupinder Gujjar did get his opportunity against Brian Myers, but unfortunately, it was squandered after Bhupinder went into an exposed turnbuckle. Brian Myers retained. Um, and then the next match is the match that I am talking about as why they relegated it to the countdown. Um, the Knockouts Tag Team title match. Vexed versus Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie. Unfortunately, Jessica did get involved in the match as a lot of people suspected, but it ended up unfortunately costing Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie. So with that, we have new Knockouts Tag Team Champions Vexed. The team of Chelsea Green and Deonna Purrazzo are your new Knockouts Tag Team Champions. Then, with a rocky start to the main show of Emergence, Speedball Mike Bailey and Jack Evans. Man, do I really hope that Jack Evans is here to stay for a very long time in Impact Wrestling. That match was absolutely amazing. Like, Jack Evans, he's just such a great talent, and it's so sad that he didn't renew his contract with AEW because, like, man, Jack Evans and Angelico, the Hybrid 2, they were such a great tag team, but even in general, like,
I'm pretty sure.
Jack Evans could have been a very solid.
I'm pretty sure Jack Evans wants to forget that he got his head shaved.
Oh, you could totally, you definitely couldn't even notice that he ever had his head shaved after, like, because he grew it back so quickly, and even then, but he did shave off his beard, so it's almost a completely different look for Jack Evans. He has, like, kind of shaggy, curly hair now and no beard, so it's definitely like a much different look for Jack Evans, but Speedball did retain. So next we're supposed to get a match between Sami Callihan and Steve Maclin, but the match doesn't even get started as the two men brawl before the match could even begin, and the referee got taken out. So, but they still brawled backstage. And they still were brawling just in general too. So we'll get into that. But then we have VBD versus Chris Saban and Kushida, and even for the first time that they teamed together, like, man, the tag team symmetry of Chris Saban and Kushida really, like, was on full display, and, like, man, I tell you what, like, Kushida and Chris Saban just moved together so well. It's almost as if they've been, like, tag team partners forever. And even then, Saban and Kushida were doing some of the Machine Guns, like, tag team maneuvers, but it was not enough to pull one over on Violent by Design. They beat Chris Saban and Kushida. Then we have Honor No More's Kenny King calling out Heath, but Kenny King gets distracted by Sami Callihan and Steve Maclin beating each other up in the crowd. But Kenny King should have never turned his back on the action because Heath still came out just when Kenny King least expected it, and he hit Kenny King with a wake-up call. And he said that he was going to hit as many members of Honor No More with a wake-up call as he could. He was going to take them all out if he could. Next, we have a special AAA attraction match, Bandito and Ray Horace. Now, it kind of started a little like, a little, I don't want to say sloppy, but it definitely, it was a feeling out process to begin. But once they got going, it was like they just couldn't take they just kept going full steam ahead. And it was actually a very exciting lucha match. But ultimately, Bandito, former Ring of Honor World Champion, defeated Ray Horace in that special AAA attraction match. Um, then we get backstage with it was supposed to be Moose's interview time, but it gets broken up by Steve Maclin and Sami Callihan. We're still brawling. They brawl backstage, but this time Maclin has help from Moose. It spills out into the arena, and then Scott D'Amore comes out to make the match official under no disqualification rules, and Moose is banned from ringside. And in that no DQ match, Sami Callihan beats Steve Maclin. And then what I thought was actually going to be the main event, it is not. But it's safe to say that it had big implications to be main event worthy. We had a no disqualification 10-man tag team match between the members of Honor No More and the members of Bullet Club. If Bullet Club won, Honor No More had to disband forever, but if Honor No More won, they would get their title shots. And bad news, folks. Honor No More beat Bullet Club, and they will now get their title shots. Ooh. So, but honestly, though, I look at it this way. I thought it was only I thought it was all members of Honor No More would get title shots. No, I do believe it is only Taven and Bennett who are getting tag team title shots, which honestly, I'm, as much as I don't like Honor No More, I will honestly and truthfully say that Taven and Bennett, OGK, deserves Impact tag team titles. They've worked their asses off to earn it, and even just earn a contract in Impact Wrestling, especially Taven, because Bennett's been there before, but it was under the old, management, and it was under the old thing before they started really having financial struggles. So, and even probably during actually, but either way, whether it's NWA or Impact, OGK definitely deserves some tag team titles because, before the Briscoes took the titles from the OGK, they really haven't done much in terms of, a tag team division or even really just in general, tag team titles. So, moving on though, Jordynne Grace versus Mia Yim for the Knockouts World title. Jordynne Grace beats Mia Yim to retain, but then who comes down but Masha Slamovich? She makes her presence felt. She wants gold. She sends Jordynne Grace her death warrant. it's safe to say that Masha is on the fast track to becoming the #1 contender for the Knockouts title. Um, hey, I mean, she's got that undefeated streak for a reason. She's been killing it so far, and even then, Impact has been feeding her bigger names and bigger names weekly. So, yeah, it's safe to say that she's on the fast track to becoming Knockouts World Champion eventually. Who's to say she doesn't beat Jordynne Grace to become the Knockouts World Champion? Very, very possible. Um, then in the main event, and a much anticipated main event, a very good back and forth main event as well. Josh Alexander and Alex Shelley. Man, there were many moments in the match where I thought that we could have a new champion. Like Alex Shelley just brought the best out of Josh Alexander, but to be fair, Alex Shelley has always brought out the best in his opponents, no matter which, uh, no matter if it's for a championship, not for a championship, in a tag team, not in a tag team. Like, Alex Shelley is a phenomenal wrestler, and he proved that in his match, his first his first time challenging for the Impact World Championship, and I can guarantee it certainly should not and probably would not be the last time that Alex Shelley ever challenges for the Impact World Championship. But it's safe to say that, like, Alex Shelley proved that he can hang and he can be a main event guy. But um, either way, Josh Alexander beats Alex Shelley to retain. Like, I figured that was the likely scenario, but at the same time, it's like, hey, Josh Alexander has had a good run. It's time to give it to Alex Shelley, especially before the man ultimately retires, because, as much as I love Alex Shelley, I think it's coming up to his time. His time is certainly, like, getting there. Probably going to come to an end sooner than later. But honestly, like, uh, Alex Shelley, and that's another thing too, is like we could very well see Alex Shelley team up with Kushida in Impact, which it wouldn't shock me, especially with the way that things are going for Kushida in Impact. Um, it's safe to say that at some point we could eventually see the Time Splitters in a tag team match. But as far as like things are going right now, so long as Saban is still there, more than likely it'll still be the Motor City Machine Guns. But I'm sure with the way things are going, they don't want you to forget that Shelley was ever in a tag team with Kushida. But that's all for Impact. We bring it over to AEW now.
Yeah, so AEW definitely started off very interesting with the Coffin match between Darby Allin and Brody King. Um, didn't take very long for color to be shown in this night as Darby Allin uses the skateboard, digs the thumbtacks right into Brody King, and immediately afterwards was gushing blood. So this match was very back and forth, very highly anticipated. Of course, the odds were against Darby Allin as House of Black did appear in the match, but Sting, who had face paint of his regular self, and then also from where he got, that's black mist spit in his face. But with to no surprise, Darby Allin beats Brody King in a very weird turn of events that saw him tumble right into the coffin, and it closed right afterwards.
Well, it was after Darby had like choked him with the chain. He in a sense he like hung him from the chain on the second rope, and then next thing you know, it uh, causes Brody to like tumble, and he just falls into the coffin so perfectly that the coffin lid basically closed on itself, and therefore it gave Darby the win. You can't you can't give us a better finish to a match than that.
Yeah, like I said, the House of Black tried to get involved, but Darby and Sting fought them off tooth and nail to the end. But Sting and Malachi were up on the ramp and talking to each other. Could Sting have a change of heart and join the House of Black?
Um, I don't know. I mean, with the way everything is going right now, I don't see that being the likely scenario. But at the same time, who's to say that the because think about it too. So far, a lot of people that have had black mist spat in their face have joined the House of Black.
I know, I was
I
just gonna
mean,
say.
except for Death Triangle, obviously, but Julia Hart joined. Buddy Matt, well, Julia is really the only one that joined that had the mist spat in her face so far. But
Right.
it's safe to say that, especially with Sting and having the black mist painted on his face, like it's safe to say that um, Sting could very well be the next person.
Now,
But I could be wrong.
do you think that the plan is to have like a 6-man tag team match heading into All Out? Do you think that Miro is going to join up with Darby and Sting to take on the House of Black at?
Well, I don't know because we'll get into that, but it's safe to say that if anything, there would like it. I still think there would be the House of Black, like and Miro getting involved in some way, shape, or form. But I think it ultimately would be something that would involve like you know. But like I said, we'll get into that. I'm not gonna spoil it right now.
Right. So, the AEW World Trios Championship tournament got announced. So the matches are going to be Death Triangle against Will Ospreay and Aussie Open.
United Empire.
Yes. Andrade El Idolo and Roosh.
And Dragon
and
Lee.
Dragon Lee against the Young Bucks.
Los Facción Ingobernables.
Against the Young Bucks and a mystery partner.
I'm not sure if it's La Facción Ingobernables or it's Los Facción.
So we are actually going to get this match later tonight. And the signs are pointing to a returning Kenny Omega joining up with the Young Bucks, unless we're going to get swerved and it's somebody else. But
a lot of people are saying that they could pull a swerve on us, and it's actually Brandon Cutler. But
I don't think so. There's no way it's going to be Brandon Cutler. I think it's going to be.
That? Well, why would they tease a mystery partner and just ultimately have it be Brandon Cutler?
I guess the only reason why they think that is because it could be, but I think it's going to be Kenny Omega, and you're going to see them kind of turning back as like the faces, like the Elite are going to be the faces, and the Undisputed Elite.
You can't get any bigger of a return than Kenny Omega, even if before he left to rehab.
Trust me, I'm pretty sure he's fully healthy by now. 1 and 2. You want to sell tickets for the pay-per-view. You look at it right now and you're like, right now it's not looking the best, but right now we have Bryan Danielson that's fully healthy, ready to come back and face off against Daniel Garcia yet again. Actually,
we have CM Punk now.
Actually, not yet again, because technically it was Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia at the pay-per-view at Forbidden Door.
No, it wasn't Forbidden Door. It was Death Before Dishonor.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So this time we're gonna get Bryan Danielson and Daniel Garcia in a one hell of a wrestling match, I would think.
Yeah, that's gonna be 2 hours.
I would think you're gonna see. Well, I still think that's gonna happen. That's gonna lead into All Out as well.
Oh, Danielson and Garcia.
Yeah, I don't think
more than likely.
I don't think this is gonna be truly over with yet, honestly, between these two. But who knows? I could be wrong. I think they could give Bryan Danielson somebody else instead of Daniel Garcia at the pay-per-view, but signs reporting to it being those two getting into All Out, which is fine by me. Then I would think another one you would have is we'll get there, but yeah, well, I will say I think from seeing what I have here, because you have also them, I really do think it might be. Then you have the House of Black against Dark Order. This one's a tough one because I would like to see it being Dark Order, and we'll get there soon. Beat the House of Black, but right now with the House of Black doing so great as a trio, it's kind of like, do you give them the loss and really derail what they've been doing, or do you have them beat the Dark Order and Adam Heyman Page?
I don't know, because
possibly.
Because honestly, we already know that that's not the case. But the thing about it is you can't derail the momentum of the House of Black. You just can't. Especially.
I know.
So.
But for long-term time storytelling, you would have to have. I would think you should have the Young Bucks face off against. See, this is what pisses me off, that the Undisputed Elite aren't part of this Trios Tag Team Tournament.
Yeah, because then at least that would be long-term story.
Yes, it would.
But unfortunately, they are not medically cleared.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I'm gonna. I would, if I had to choose between all of this, I say Death Triangle loses the Will Ospreay and Aussie Open. I say that the Young Bucks and the mystery opponent beat Los
Ingobernables Los Facción Ingobernables.
Yeah. House of Black beats the Dark Order. I hate to say it. I mean.
Well, then what about the Trustbusters and the Best
Friends? Oh, Best Friends. I mean, Orange Cassidy beat, one. Of course, we'll go about that, but yeah, he beat Ari Daivari, formerly known. So, I would happen to say they're probably the Best Friends against the Trustbusters that, win. But, speaking of it, we actually get a little bit of, Death Triangle. Could this potentially, who knows? Death Triangle could still end up beating Will Ospreay and Aussie Open. Could we potentially see Andrade El Idolo, Rush, and Dragon Lee face off against Death Triangle in the finals?
Possible.
Because we got it here in this match. We got, but man, they were using some dirty tactics in that match. I mean, they were making sure that Penta had to get out of his mask. Then Alex Abrahantes threw the second mask, which got thrown into the crowd. Crowd was chanting, "Throw it back! Throw it back!" Because they wanted the fans to throw it back into the ring to see if he was gonna take it or whatnot. But it ended up happening like that. But yeah, Andrade El Idolo and Rush actually beat the Lucha Brothers, which I was quite shocked about. But hey, you do want to build up, Andrade El Idolo, Rush, and Tiger Lee,
Dragon Lee.
or Dragon Lee in this match. So, but then again, who knows? Death Triangle could surprise us and beat Osprey and Aussie Open. But I would think, since that, they're such a great trio, you would have to have them beat Death Triangle, who I hate to say it really hasn't done much as a trio. They really have not at all. So, going forward, Young Bucks thank Adam Hangman Page for saving them, as they should. Say they are sorry for the past. I think as they should. I mean, you really didn't have much faith in the Hangman and Page. Going from this, kind of thicker guy to being a built, AEW World Champion. From being basically Kenny's little bitch as a tag team champion to being the former AEW champion to, possibly getting a chance at the Trios World Tag Team titles. But they're, in the building where he won the world title. But after they say, hey, would you like to join us? He's like, man, I'm going to have to decline your invitation. I'm not going to be in the tournament at all. I'm just going to be in the corner for
Dark Order.
For Dark Order, which makes you wonder if it's actually going to be Evil Uno with John Silver and Alex Reynolds. It could be possible. Actually, no, it's not going to be. It's going to be Preston Vance. That's right. I think it's going to be Preston Vance and Alex Reynolds and John Silver.
Now, see, it would make more sense if they still had Alan Angels as number 5, because then you would be able to have Evil Uno, Alan 5 Angels, and Preston Vance.
Yeah, I know, but it is what it is. I mean, it just sucks. I would like that. It would be nice if they had a little bit more plans for Adam Hangman Page. I think you should kind of push him into the AEW TNT title picture, because right now you're kind of like, he's just there, supporting the Dark Order and just kind of there right now. And I don't think that's such a good image for Adam Hangman Page after being a former AEW World Champion. But that's just me. So, could it be? Could it be Kenny Omega? Could it be somebody else? If you don't watch Dynamite right then and there on Wednesdays live, like, a lot of people probably usually don't. But, I would suggest probably not reading any social beforehand so you don't get spoiled, because let me tell you something.
We've made that
I'm pretty sure that's going to be the top target. It might happen, could be the first match of the card. And then all of a sudden, Kenny Omega back in AEW,
Yeah.
Because that's going to be all over the place. That's going to be trending all over Twitter and everything and Facebook days back. So, of course, turn off all of social media if you do not want to be spoiled, because let me tell you something, they are very, quick to being spoiling things when something like that happens. So, if you don't want to get spoiled on anything, definitely recommend don't be on social media and watching Dynamite and Rampage.
Preferably Twitter, because Twitter is pretty much just the culprit of a lot of spoilers in terms of because a lot of people live tweet. So, if people didn't live tweet, then maybe there would be but, that's another thing too, is if you follow a lot of dirt sheet pages on Facebook and especially Twitter, you definitely avoid Facebook and definitely avoid Twitter.
Right. But moving forward, Luchasaurus faces off against Anthony Henry, beats him, and of course Christian Cage is running his mouth. That angers Jungle Boy, who actually goes after him and beats him down backstage and has to get pulled aside.
Almost beats him down, actually. almost beat him down, but security stopped him before he could even lay a hand on Christian Cage.
Yeah, man, I tell you
But
what,
it's safe to say that Jungle Boy was out for blood with
I will
Christian
say this
Cage.
now. Is it safe to say this is probably the best rivalry that's heading on that's in
Absolutely.
AEW right now because it makes you ready. I hope they have an extra stipulation for this match. Just have a no disqualification. Let them beat the living hell out of each
No,
other.
better yet, for for the story that they're like pretty much telling of like, oh, Christian Cage always runs away from Jungle Boy, Steel Cage, so that way Christian
That's what I'm
can't
saying.
easily run.
You gotta have a specialty match in this
Yes,
occasion.
you gotta have
You got
you
to.
gotta have a gimmick match.
Yeah, for this occasion, you had to have a gimmick match, and
It's gotta be a Steel Cage. It has to be.
yeah, I think it should be because they can literally beat the living crap out of each other in that match, and I hope they do. I think it's going to be a great match. It's going to be something that I think it's going to sell tickets. I think All Out, like if you told me All Out was going to happen with like all those injuries, I was going to say it's not going to be that great as a pay-per-view. But now that a lot of the talent is coming back, with
Yeah.
CM Punk coming back, with possibly Kenny Omega being involved in the tag team title picture, because I would hate to say it.
Spoiler alert about CM Punk, by the way.
Yes, I'm sorry. We'll get there eventually. But yeah, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, still there. But I do think that Christian Cage has a lot, on his plate going up against Jungle Boy. So Miro, of course, is talking about how he wants Malachi Black. Then
Julia
Hart was trying to convince him to join the House of Black. He's like, the only one that can touch me is...
The only woman that can touch me is my wife. So, could Miro be teasing his wife coming to AEW?
I don't know. It's a tough one to tell. It would be nice to see her in AEW. I just don't think that, I mean, his best work has been with his wife.
Yes.
Being his corner, being his, centerpiece, being a talking person. So I want to say it would do the best for him going forward to possibly getting up there in the ranks, but we'll see. I mean, never say never.
Yeah.
So the Factory, who have been trying to promote, get more people to join their side. They already have Cole Carter. They were trying to go after Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks declined. Well, they were trying to get Powerhouse Hobbs as well, but he turns them down. Thoughts about that one?
Powerhouse Hobbs knows what he's doing. Hey, he doesn't need the Factory.
Yeah, exactly. He does not.
He's going to excel on his own, much like Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks does not need the Factory, and even then, Aaron Solo may have been in
if that match is on the buy-in, which I'm sure it will be, Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs, I still think it's going to be a good match for the buy-in.
I don't even know if they should really do that for the buy-in. But to be fair,
it's probably going to be because there's other great matches to have on the main show.
Well, that's another thing too. Is a lot of people are saying the same thing about Paul White and QT Marshall last year. They shouldn't have had that match on the main show. That should have been to the buy-in.
Oh yeah, I agree.
But in this case, Starks and Hobbs should absolutely not be put on the buy-in for All Out. It should be on the main card.
No, there's not really much build for it. That's why I say that. I think matches that don't get really too much build should be part of...
Well, in that case, then Paul White and QT Marshall didn't get that much build, but it was still on the main card last year.
I get it. It's probably just because it's Paul White. That's probably why.
And Paul White's not as big of a star as people think he is.
Right. But who knows?
That's the way I look at it. I mean, no disrespect to Paul White, but literally the only star thing about him is that he's he used to be in WWE. And even then, that's not that big of a feat for Paul White.
I know. Oh. Alright, so Jay Lethal wants another chance at the AEW TNT Championship or to take it from him. And Wardlow comes out and then he gives him his match. He says, yes, you will have your match, have a rematch. And it wants to beat their asses and come, and then down come, here comes down FTR. Could this eventually lead to a six-man tag team match?
It's possible. FTR and Wardlow versus Satnam Singh, Sanjay Dutt, and Jay Lethal.
So, of course, then afterwards, FTR takes out Jay Lethal. It's very well possible this could happen on Rampage or so, but I really do think that we're gonna get Wardlow and FTR against Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, and Sanjay Dutt. Could be possible, but if you were looking at this, is this finally the opportunity that Jay Lethal needs to go up against Wardlow for the TNT title at All Out? Because if so, it would kind of be nice to see Jay Lethal beat Wardlow.
Yeah.
Nothing against Wardlow being the champion, but he's
had a good run.
He's not a very credible.
Not
AEW,
really. And it's sad too because a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Wardlow will actually give that title." It's like he could have if they had just given Wardlow what he wanted in terms of the open challenges. But
I know this title is kind of losing its
the title's losing its value. Yes,
it is, and it's kind of sad
because ever since Sammy Guevara became a 3-time TNT champion, and then they gave the title back to Scorpio, it's like, yeah, okay, you kind of lost the value in it. With Wardlow winning it in Rochester, it started to give people hope of oh, they're actually gonna do something with the TNT title instead of just give it meaningless feuds. And it's like, yeah, no, it's kind of doing the same thing now. Because but see, that's the thing too, is what happened to having fresh opponents for the TNT title? You're literally now just oh yeah, this title, yes, don't get me wrong, having a feud over a title it should mean something, but at the same time it's you know, with the build and the matches and everything, you're literally giving it a meaningless build. And
yeah.
Just the build to it in general is yeah, you gotta stop with that, especially for the TNT title.
I agree, but going forward, Daniel Garcia wants a piece of Bryan Danielson, and then Anna Jay chokes out.
Anna JAS.
Yeah, Anna JAS chokes out a producer backstage. I don't know what's up with her deal with producers and people that be choked out, but yeah. Ricky Starks, I shouldn't say it, beats Aaron Solo, and then Nick Comoroto comes down and gets spinebuster, and then runs away from the factory, and then Powerhouse Hobbs, destroys the TV. They still have a big thing going on. Apparently Hobbs was pissed that
I can say one
Ricky
thing.
Starks has been getting all these wins. I think someone's getting a little jealous that one's getting a little bit more.
Yeah. I was going to say, if I can say one thing about that match, is that the finish was so freaking good.
Yeah.
Every now and then, AEW knows how to put on a good finish for a match. And especially with Starks and Solo, because I think what happened is, Aaron Solo tried to go for a super kick initially. Starks countered, or Starks ducked below. Then Solo tried to hit a spinning heel kick. Starks ducked below, off the ropes. Ricky Starks hit a picture perfect spear, and then it got Starks the win. You can't get any better of a finish than that.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, Ricky Starks is one hell of a opponent.
Yes.
He definitely deserves to face off against Powerhouse Hobbs because that's who he's been, in this kind of feud with ever since he got beaten down by him after losing the FGW Championship. So we'll see what comes of it. So backstage, Stokely Hathaway has been trying to get the Con Club to sign, and then Billy Gunn takes the card. Is like, hey man, you're gonna have to be dealing with a side of me you don't want to be dealing with. And then Stokely's like, all right, heads off. And then Danhausen's like, oh yes, the Ass Boys. I want a match against you on Rampage. So yes, Danhausen gets his match at Rampage with Eric Redbeard.
Yes, Beardhausen.
Yes, and then of course we get Jay Cargill and Madison Rayne.
For the TBS
It
title.
was a decent, match for Madison Rayne and Jay Cargill. I mean, Jay Cargill definitely shows that she can stand tall against somebody that has some years in the business itself. It's a little sad that Madison Rayne couldn't have gotten a title opportunity or a championship in AEW. But when you're a coach and you only there to really like help progress some of the women on the roster there, like especially Jay Cargill, it makes sense. So yes, Jay Cargill does beat Madison Rayne to retain her TBS championship, but then gets beaten down by a. But then Jay Cargill gets beaten down by Athena and then saved by Kiera Hogan. Could she be the next? Could she be next for the championship? Could she be the next challenger?
It's very possible.
As
but
far as when it's gonna happen, I would think that it's gonna be actually on the main show, or maybe the buy-in for All Out. Who knows? I would like to see that title actually defended on the main show itself. Um, if you had to, if you, the real question I have to ask here, Marty, is Athena finally the one to actually dethrone Jay Cargill for the TBS Championship?
I would like to see that happen. I
Or do
think
you
that's
think
the most
that
likely scenario. But
no,
at the
it's not
same
going to
time,
happen and Jay Cargill retains and keeps her undefeated streak? See, at this point, and I know Chris Statlander, poor so Chris Statlander is hurt again. This time it was her other knee that she tore his ACL and meniscus in.
yeah, it's a sad thing, man, because
But
it's much like
if you do
Tegan
not give
Knox.
Athena the championship here, I think what you do is you have her remain undefeated until Chris Statlander comes back in and have Chris Statlander beat her for the championship. That would be the best way to have that go. But
I
I
don't know
think
if
this is
that's
when you give it. I think this is where you give it to Athena.
yes.
You give it to Athena, who beats Jade Cargill at All Out for the TBS Championship. Because then you can at least have somebody fresh. Looking at Jade Cargill, she has had the title for at least a good amount of time now. I think it's time to have her lose it. It's
Yeah.
nice and all to be undefeated, to have that kind of record that you have, but give it a rest a little bit. I mean, she's had some decent competitors, but she's also had some very lackluster competitors go after her for the TBS Championship. Give it to Athena. Um, this would be her first, at least main big championship, in the women's division. I mean, she is a former NXT women's champion, but this would be her first like big women's championship if she was to be able to be the TBS champion. Um, to really no big surprise here, I don't know why they made this like it was a surprise. Tony Storm, because of it, of Chris Statlander, I think being hurt. I think they talked about it. I think Chris
Yeah.
Statlander was actually the original number one
Yeah,
contender.
she was the number one contender.
Now that she's hurt, Tony Storm actually is now the new number one contender for Thunder Rosa's AEW Women's World Championship. Could they face off at the pay-per-view? Yes. I really do think they will. And Honestly, I think you're going to see quite a bit of champion. Like, I think this is the pay-per-view where you're going to see a lot of titles change hands.
It wouldn't shock me, man.
And the reason why I say that is because I say you have Toni Storm beat Thunder Rosa to win her first ever big championship. This would be huge for Toni Storm. I think she looks the part. She would be a great face of the women's division. Um, I think you have her turn heel and win the title. I think that would be perfect for her character. That's just me. But I really do think that you're going to see a lot of titles change hands. I mean, we're going to crown the first ever Trios Tag Team Champions. You're probably going to see a new TBS champion. Because, I hate to say it, Jay Cargill, just because you lose a TBS championship doesn't mean that you're not out of the picture for a women's championship. I think this could shoehorn her into going after Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship. And honestly, I hate to say it, nothing against Toni Storm here. I could see her being a transitional champion for Jade Cargill to be the Women's World Champion. That I could see.
Yeah.
That I could very well see. Which honestly would be perfect because then she could be the first ever women's wrestler to win both of the women's championships.
Yeah. I mean, they're really just like giving
So
Jade Cargill.
this is where I say I think you see Thunder, because honestly, nothing against Thunder Rosa, but I really do not think it would make the most sense to have Thunder Rosa lose to Jade. If it was to be the case, I think Toni Storm would make the most sense because this is just a title that you can just give it to her to say like, hey, now you're a world champion. But I hate to say it, Jade Cargill is kind of our like top one we want to build around right now.
Yeah.
Because, hate to say it, you can still have Britt Baker face off against Athena. You have other ideas that can get thrown around for everything like that. But, yeah. So, to answer that question, yes, I could see them facing off against the pay-per-view. And don't be shocked if Thunder Rosa loses the championship right then and there. She's been the champion for over 100, probably 50-something days by now. But,
either way, she's been champion for a good amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. So good, good run that she's had. Doesn't mean that she can't eventually go after the TBS championship. Just there's other ideas that can be done in the division there. But yeah. So Jon Moxley faces off against Lionheart Chris Jericho. Man, what a back and forth great match this was. Yeah, I don't know much about Lionheart Chris Jericho than I do a lot about like all the other Chris Jerichos and WWE and AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, but there was definitely a different side of Chris Jericho that we got to see here. Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw pictures on social media, everybody, there was actually a before,
side
and
by
now
side.
he actually did wear that attire back in the day. The vest with that same attire. It just was a little bit more modernized with the belt. But back in the day, he did not have the belt, like the yellow belt that he had for it. So, yeah, and he had actual different music too. He did not have Judas. He actually had his original Lionheart theme.
Yeah.
So, the new surprise. Jon Moxley does beat Chris Jericho to retain the interim world title, but then the Jericho Appreciation Society beat down Moxley after the match, which brings out the Blackpool Combat Club. And then we hear, holy shit, everybody! CM Punk is back to even the odds and cleans house. He then stands face to face with Jon Moxley. Will we finally get to see the Undisputed Championship match at All Out between Moxley and Punk? 1 and 2, if it does happen to All Out, will it be Punk that's the Undisputed Champion? Or will it be Moxley that's the Undisputed Champion?
I think it would be Punk because Mox was only really just there to be a, he was the interim
And
champion for a reason,
let
and even
me
then,
tell you something. This is going to bring the house down at All Out in Chicago. CM Punk would be able to main event in his hometown. What better way to give him a victory in Chicago?
yeah, I mean,
Which we were so rightfully screwed out of for Forbidden Door. He was supposed to go against
Tanahashi.
yeah,
It was supposed to be him and Tanahashi instead of
Hiroshi
Mox and
Tanahashi.
Tanahashi.
Yes.
But honestly, Mox and Tanahashi was probably a better
Yeah, Forbidden
alternative,
Door was such a great pay-per-view, and let me tell you something.
even though it was very limited with the roster.
Oh yeah, of course. It was a great pay-per-view for what it was. I really do think that New Japan Pro Wrestling Stars really helped bring the credibility of that pay-per-view
Yes.
up, honestly.
But also, next year's Forbidden Door pay-per-view should be a little bit better.
Oh yeah,
And
I think so too, because you're gonna have the likes of Kenny Omega. I would like to see Kenny Omega against Will Ospreay. That would be a great match for next
they've
year.
been teasing it a lot, so it's safe to say that Osprey
I would
and
love to see the Elite versus the Bullet Club too. That would be cool.
that I don't know if
I
that'll
really
actually
do
happen.
think that we got screwed out of that match at Forbidden Door. It would have made a little bit more sense because we still had, the 5 members of the Undisputed Elite that could have went up against like 5 members of Bullet Club. You could have had faction versus faction, but we got ended up having Black Bull Comic Club versus Jericho Appreciation Society instead of Blood and Guts, which was right after Forbidden Door. But hey, it is what it is. So, but then again, it wouldn't shock me if it's Jon Moxley because Jon Moxley's been having a great run as interim world champion. So, who knows?
It's tough to really decide.
Yeah,
But
I will agree, but it is tough. But
it would make the most sense for Punk to be. That's
so,
just me, but
so we get onto the Rampage side of things. There wasn't really a lot of great things that were happening on Rampage, but there were some things that made sense heading into Dynamite and Rampage next week. So Bryan Danielson comes out and says he's never felt more alive than in the ring and will never willfully give up wrestling, which I think is really great that he's not going to. Like, it literally will have to take him to his
you
last
literally
breath,
have to kill him before he will
give up on wrestling.
retire.
It says that his career will not be over with later tonight. Probably not. Then Daniel Garcia comes out and says Bryan is his hero and prepared to lose, coming up with excuses. This felt. I hate to say it. I gave WWE a lot of crap for reusing a lot of like storylines. This one kind of feel like we've heard this before between
with MJF
CM Punk and MJF.
Yeah.
Because that's what kind of like came out with this,
well,
which I hate to say it, maybe Daniel Garcia did grow up being a Bryan Danielson fan. You don't know that.
It's a little different too because you think about it also as like, oh yeah, MJF paid to meet me. This is a picture of him, and then like, yeah. So next thing you know, like MJF is like in a sense denying it and is like, oh yeah, I used to love you, but now I fucking hate you, or like
Right.
that kind of thing. This is a little bit different.
Says he will hurt him and end his career. He says that people have to call him the best technical sports entertainer in the world.
On the planet.
On the planet, yes. What pisses Danielson off is that, sports entertainment bullshit, which Marty and I discussed it before. You're never going to see Bryan Danielson back in WWE. I don't care if there's different directive or anything like that. To me, in the end, WWE is still going to be sports entertainment, and it doesn't matter if it's Stephanie McMahon or Triple H or Paul Heyman. It's still going to be sports entertainment in the end. Even when it was in the Attitude Era, it was still sports entertainment.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Yes, Ruthless Aggression Era, they focused a little bit more on the wrestling aspect, but it was still very sports entertainment feel. WWE, I don't know why it took me so long to realize that WWE has been more about the entertainment than the wrestling. Probably because back in the day when it was Ruthless Aggression, they were actually beating a lot of the crap out of each other and putting on great matches. You get in 2000, 2003, you would have a lot of gimmick matches on Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah.
Where nowadays you don't even get that. You maybe save it for a pay-per-view match or two. Maybe not even that half the time. But yes, it says that sports entertainment bullshit. And then he asks him, which is probably the greatest line of this promo battle. Do you want to be the best technical sports entertainer, or you want to be the best technical wrestler on the planet? Thoughts?
It really, it was the one thing to take away from that is it left Daniel Garcia speechless.
Yeah, it did.
Because
it made him had to think, is he in the right group right now? It really did. Because it'd be something if he actually joins the Blackpool Combat Club after, this match between both of them. It'd be something. Because I think I do remember he actually did try to pursue Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta to the Blackpool Combat Club. But the only one that's in there that is a professional wrestler in the field is Wheeler Yuta, which he is one of the best underrated wrestlers right now. Hence why he's the pure champion.
He is the Ring of Honor pure champion.
Yes. Which, by the way, if you did, watch Death Before Dishonor, the kind of match that Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta had for the pure championship. That was one hell of a technical wrestling match.
But yet, Daniel Garcia didn't care about that title and didn't care about Ring of Honor.
Right, exactly. He flipped him off. But it makes you wonder if Daniel Garcia is going to have a change of thought heading into this match later tonight for the House of the Dragon special episode. So I kind of find it funny that it's the House of the Dragon, and you have
the Dragon
Slayer, the American Dragon. Yeah, so AEW.
They truly are in the House of the Dragon.
Did you
It's almost like they did that on purpose.
Did you plan that one out? Did you plan that one out with HBO Max? Because I think you did.
Me thinks you did.
Well, because Discovery, HBO Max, they
Yeah, that's all Turner.
Yep, exactly. So
same with True TV. It's safe to say that at the end of the day, we could very well see Ring of Honor, if anything, being on True TV at some point. If anything.
Yeah, I mean, probably. It wouldn't shock me. Still makes you wonder how long it's going to be before ROH does become a thing. But, alright, stop. Going forward, Ty Mello was, formerly known as Ty Conti, but she's actually using her actual real last name.
Well, that's the thing, too, is now that she's married to Sammy Guevara,
yes, Ty Mello.
You kind of have to
Ty
Mello now.
Tainara
Mello Guevara.
Yep.
So, but yeah, you kind of have to call her Ty Mello now because Ty Conti was her ex-husband's name.
Oh, okay. So, so her and her current husband, Sammy Guevara, face off against Sky Blue and Dante Martin, who are a couple. Which I mean, it could be a couple, could not be. I have no idea, but I am pretty sure they are. So they face off for the AAA mixed tag team titles. To no surprise here, I mean, there was a good spot in the match where
Dante hit
Dante
a
like
Canadian.
flipped over Ty.
Yeah.
She goes up, kind of like, on
He put he jumped off of Ty like
into the
Ty,
Canadian
yeah.
Destroyer. Man, that was one hell of a transition right there. But this match, I didn't really care for it too much. There wasn't really any great spots other than that one in this match. Other than that, it didn't shock me that Ty Mello and Sammy Guevara retain the mixed tag team titles, to no surprise there. Um, Parker Boudreaux beat Sonny Kiss. The Gun Club faced off against Beardhausen. And no surprise, the Gun Club actually beat Beardhausen, and then after the match, Billy says he wants his boys to toughen up. Says this right here is why you're getting called the ass boys. This is why I miss the Acclaim so much. I want you guys to toughen up. I don't know who he's gonna have them go up against. I mean, they are going up against the Varsity Blondes on Dynamite, I want to say. I don't know if he's referring to Rampage or Dynamite or something like that. I think he's talking about
to Dynamite.
I want to say he's probably talking about Rampage, but he could be talking about Dynamite. Varsity Blondes, I don't know if that's going to be a team that's going to really toughen them up, but it could. Who could this team be? It could be the Varsity Blondes. It could be anybody at this point. Who really knows? But then afterwards, Stokely says, accept my offer. Accept my offer. Colton Gunn was thinking about it, but Austin then pulled him away. What does this mean? I think eventually the Gun Club is going to go with Stokely Hathaway. I think they're going to be like, you know what, Daddy, ass,
yeah,
you're not cutting it for us anymore. We're going to go with Stokely.
Well, that's another thing too. Is like
I really do think that Billy Gunn might end up still being with the Acclaimed after the fact. And then Stokely will be with the Gun Club.
It's also safe to say that if Austin and Colton break off and go the route of Stokely Hathaway, then something tells me that Billy would go back to his role of being a coach.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it would not shock me. Then this is an interesting one. Zac Clayton, I have no idea. Yeah, who? Who the hell are you? Some apparently like.
Who are you? Who are you?
Some apparently like TV reality superstar. I have no idea who the hell this guy is.
Well, at first he said the reality, Zac Clayton. I was thinking about it. I'm like, is he part of that tag team? Is he part of the NDA with Chris Danger in DPW? And I was like, I don't think so.
Then he comes out and says he wants a shot at Hook on Rampage. Thoughts? Oh yeah, he's gonna get his FTW championship opportunity next Friday on Rampage. I had to say,
what a way to make your debut than by immediately getting inserted into a championship match.
I hate to say it.
A championship that's not even sanctioned.
I know. Honestly, I hate to say it. It's kind of sad that they're doing more with the FTW championship not being sanctioned than the TNT championship that is sanctioned.
Yes.
I find that weird. I think they're making the FTW championship like a title, like an unsanctioned title, where actually it kind of means something, because after the person that wins it kind of ends up doing something and getting kind of like a push a little bit. So the FTW title, I was even saying to Marty, I think it should be an officially sanctioned title.
I agree.
Because you're doing more with it in AEW. You're giving it to guys that like you see as future champions.
Yes.
So why not make it an official title? Okay, I get it. It's supposed to be the FTW World Championship.
Well,
but let me tell you something.
That, like, I get it for the historical standpoint with ECW. Like, it never was a sanctioned title in ECW. But even still, like, yeah, they're doing more with that title than they are with their freaking TNT Championship, which is supposed to be, like, in a sense, their mid-card title.
I know.
Like,
I know.
What the hell, man?
It is what it is. But I hate to say it, Zac Clayton, you um wish better have some wishful thinking
Yeah.
of wanting to challenge one of those top rising stars in all of AEW right now and Hook, because you're about to get your ass beat. Um, then in our main event of Rampage, which wasn't super great, Orange Cassidy and Ari Daivari face off against each other. Well, Orange Cassidy does beat Ari Daivari, and then both teams beat each other down to get ready for their match next week, which it will be will happening next Rampage. It will be um, best friends against the Trustbusters, and then Sunny Kiss helps Parker beat down Orange Cassidy.
Yes.
Interesting.
It's
I
safe to say
guess,
that Sonny Kiss has joined the
yeah,
Trustbusters.
Sonic Kiss looks to have joined the Trustbusters, who were trying to very well, as much as they could, convince Orange Cassidy to join them. But yeah, we're going to be getting Sunny Kiss instead. I honestly think this could be a good thing for Sunny Kiss, because right now you weren't really doing anything with them. But then again, I mean, I really do think that this trios tag team division might be best for AEW going forward. I mean, you don't have a whole lot of trios, but I hate to say it, as soon as Adam Cole and his gang there are ready, that's another trio that you could have, face off against
Yeah.
for those titles. So you have a lot of options.
Well, not to mention, don't forget also you still have the Ring of Honor six-man tag team champions in
For God's sake,
Dalton Castle and the boys.
you have um, JAS that could be like,
Yeah.
oh, you know what I would love to have go after those trios tag team titles? Jericho, Hager, Guevara. Right there. I think that would make the most sense.
The Inner Circle, baby.
Yo, yeah, I would like that. As far as the Black Bull Combat Club, I could see Claudia,
Blackpool Combat Club.
Danielson.
Danielson, Yuta, and Claudio.
I think so. Yeah, that would make the most sense to me.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool.
If not that, then if not the AEW trios titles, then definitely the Ring of Honor six-man titles.
FTR and CM Punk, I think, would make the most sense too. That would be cool, because
that's another one that they
were
may win the ROH. Like, there's so much that you can do with, like, in terms of, like, oh, if they don't do it for the AEW trios, then they will definitely do it for the Ring of Honor six-man.
So, I mean, you have a lot of options for that. I hope it doesn't overrule the actual tag team division itself.
It shouldn't.
I don't think it will. Because that's what's cool about the tag team division in the whole, is now you had these trios tag team titles. Now you got more exposure for the tag team division, which I think is good for AEW that is focusing on it. There's a lot of titles for the men's, the women's, the tag team division itself. You got the trios and the tag team titles. You have the All Atlantic Championship, even though you're not really doing anything with that title per se.
It's more or less just,
more like an indie title, to be honest with you.
An indie title that is defended internationally.
Yeah, but other than that, everybody, I know I said it was probably going to be a shorter episode and ended up being over an hour long, but we did talk about a lot of key points here. I think we, heading into a great pay-per-view September 4th. Of course, we're going to be there September 7th, which is going to be the fallout from All Out. And that's going to be the title episode for that Buffalo episode, which I'm definitely looking forward to. But, of course, as always, please follow us on the socials at Tinkle Sports. Of course, you want to follow that right over there, Tinkle Sports Entertainment. This show is every Wednesday at 5 p.m. We have Out of Turn 4 every Tuesday at 5. And, of course, the return, which will be in... So the 17th. So in 11 days, we will be returning with Sunday Morning Tinkle. Season 3, everybody. I know. Crazy to think about that. We're heading into Season 3 of Tinkle's Sunday Morning Tinkle already. Definitely look out for, and the preseason talk heading to the regular season, who we think will win the first game, which is the Bills versus the Rams, who we think could be our, ASC, team heading to Super Bowl, NFC
But
team heading
also
to the
don't
Super
make
Bowl.
sure also make sure not to miss the draft talk on
Yes,
Discord.
exactly. Please do not miss that. Join our Discord, of course. If you want to be joining us for our Tinkle fantasy, join us on Discord for that. As always, everyone, we will catch you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.